Winners and losers from Week 9. Next on Fantasy Football Today in 5. Welcome to FFT in 5. I'm Chris Towers. I'm here with Adam Azer, and we're here to recap Week 9 of the NFL season on Sunday night. Make sure you listen to the full episode of Fantasy Football Today for a more broad, in-depth discussion of the winners and losers. But Adam, we're going to talk some winners and losers here. First, we got, unfortunately, more injuries. Daniel Jones looks like he suffered a torn ACL, according to reports, likely to end his season. Tyrod Taylor was added to the IR on Saturday for the Giants. So, I mean, is there anything to be optimistic about with this offense right now?
No. I think it's a hit for Saquon. Still a must-start running back.
Yes.
Still get so many touches, but there's nothing. It's very bleak.
Yeah, Tommy DeVito did at least throw the ball forward this week, which I suppose on the scale of wins and losses for the Giants counts as a win here. But yeah, I think he's probably going to be pretty bad. I don't think any of the pass catchers outside of Saquon are going to matter. I thought maybe Wan'Dale Robinson might matter with Daniel Jones back, but it's just going to be really hard. He's going to have to put together some good weeks, and he didn't do that today despite catching a touchdown. So not really much interest there. Josh Downs suffered a setback with his knee injury, seemingly. He was questionable coming in, played very little in this game, and then suffered a setback. So that was frustrating because I know a lot of people were asking questions about starting him today. Not sure what the long-term prognosis is there. Cam Akers, unfortunately, sounds like he suffered another ruptured Achilles. That's just a brutal, brutal break for him. Positive for Alexander Mattison, who should see a significant majority of the work for the Vikings moving forward. Is he just still in that RB2 discussion?
Yeah, but this is a big deal. I mean, he had 18 touches in this game. If you're worried about Akers, this basically doesn't quite go back to where he was. You got to look at Madison's game logs the first 4 or 5 games before the trade, and he was very productive for fantasy. Was he good? Well, that's another question, but he was very productive for fantasy, but he had Cousins then. So, I think every week now it seems like once we get into like RB 18 or so, it gets really ugly.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think he's probably on the other side of that most weeks.
All right, on the Vikings.
The good side of that.
Yeah, on the Vikings front, Jaron Hall suffered a concussion very early on, forced Josh Dobbs into... I mean, he said after the game he didn't know the names of the people he was throwing the ball to. They were like working on the snap cadence before, like on the sideline in an emergency pinch. He hadn't practiced at all with the first team. And he actually came out and played pretty well. So hopefully that bodes well for this offense moving forward, at least that he can give them a floor, right?
Hey, man, good job by the Falcons. I just got to say, like, you get Will Levis 1 week, you get Josh Dobbs, been there for 3 days, and you lose. Yes, no, it does. It does give him a floor. I think Marquise Brown has been okay with Dobbs, right? McBride had a much better game with Dobbs.
Yeah, Clayton Tune was very, very bad.
You could always get to Clayton Tune, So Dobbs is exciting. He's a gamer. He's going to turn the ball over. He's really bad throwing the ball deep, though. That's kind of a concern for Jordan Addison. But I think at least for Hawkinson, you feel better about it, and for Madison, you feel better about it.
All right. Christian Watson had a chest, back, and concussion in this one. Went to the locker room, wasn't able to play through that, so that'll be something to watch. And then Dallas Goedert, I haven't seen anything on the severity of this injury, but it was a pretty bad-looking wrist injury that he went to the locker room with and was ruled out pretty quickly. So that could be serious for Dallas Goedert. Thankfully, the tight end position is actually okay right now. We had a 2-touchdown game from Cade Otton. Dalton Schultz had another big game, so might be able to replace him. Adam, let's move on to some winners and losers. Who's your biggest winner coming out of Week 9?
I mean, how could it not be C.J. Stroud?
I mean, it's the one good thing happening in the NFL right now, right?
Good for him, man. This is great. Now, look, keep in mind, last week he scored less than 13 fantasy points. 3 straight games before this with fewer than 20 fantasy points. If you look at the schedule, he's been pretty matchup dependent. So I worry people are going to get a little carried away. I think he could struggle next week at Cincinnati, for example. I know that the Bengals had an injury in their secondary that Cam Taylor, Britt, and we're reporting at halftime. So we'll see. But I don't think CJ Stroud is necessarily a must start, but he's obviously a winner. He's a guy who spreads the ball around. One week could be a Nico Collins week, next day a Tank Dell week, Dalton Schultz or whatever it is. But they have no run game. With the state of quarterbacks, he's a top 12 quarterback, maybe top 10. I don't think he's quite a must-start guy, but good for you if you have him, and better for you if you started him.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I'm going against my wife this week, and she started him. And you know what? I'm fine with that. I'm happy she's going to get the win. Winner for me, Aaron Jones. Wasn't super efficient. Packers offense still looks pretty mediocre. They scored 20 points against the Rams, but 20 carries, 6 targets for Aaron Jones. There was a lot of talk in the lead up to this game that they were going to cut him loose, that he was fully healthy. And that's exactly what they did. This is the first time. I think he had 20 carries in this one. I think he had 25 in the 4 games prior to this. So awesome. Clearly what the Packers offense needed, frankly, because there is a big gap between Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon still got some touches in close. That's a little concerning, but Aaron
Jones though.
What's that?
Jones got a goal line touchdown. I thought that was a huge deal. Look, honestly, this is not an overstatement. He's got, with the state of running back, I think he's got top 5 potential rest of season if they're going to keep using him like this.
Yeah, I think similar things with Jonathan Taylor, who out-touched Zach Moss 22-7, 43 of the 57 snaps for the Colts. Jonathan Taylor played, ran routes on 21 of 28 dropbacks. That's all exactly what we wanted to see. It's kind of funny that it came during the game where I think he looked least impressive over the last month, but hey, we'll take the workload there, and it clearly tilted towards him. Who's a loser for you, Adam?
A loser for me would be Devontae Adams. I thought this would be a really good matchup for him. The Giants started out with actually shadowing him with a veteran, Adoree Jackson, and then Adoree Jackson left with a concussion, and Banks was on him. But it really shouldn't matter. It just shouldn't matter for Devontae Adams. Now, they didn't throw the ball a lot. They ran the ball, and they won by 24 points or something like that against the Giants. So that's not great. But he gets the Jets next week, and I don't have a ton of confidence. Maybe he can turn it around after that. But for a guy that I was pretty sure he was a good buy low candidate, and I was pretty sure he was going to have a good game. And I thought Aiden O'Connell played pretty well, so maybe it was just a lack of pass volume, but there's no doubt about it. He's a loser, and I lost some confidence in Devontae Adams today. I still would say he's a buy low because the price keeps getting lower.
Yeah.
He's not a number 1 anymore. He's a number 2 wide receiver, hopefully.
Yeah, I think he's a number 2. They only threw 25 times in this one. The Giants trailed by 20-plus for the 4th time in 9 games, which is just unbelievable. They were up 24-0 in the first half. The Raiders were. Loser for me is going to be Geno Smith. And you know, we talk about regression a lot with Gus Edwards has 6 touchdowns in his last 34 carries or whatever it is over the past 3 games. That's the kind of regression we talk about where it's statistical regression. Geno Smith, I think, if you looked at the film last year, if you looked at the numbers, everything pointed to, no, he really was that good.
Yeah.
The problem was he hasn't been able to sustain that so far this season. Now, this was a really tough matchup, but given the weapons that he has, he should be playing better, and he's just not playing at that level. So he's someone that I've, pretty consistently still ranked in that QB1, high-end QB2, low-end QB1 range. It's harder to justify that the way he's played, really all season, but especially lately. So that's the biggest loser for me with Geno Smith, and that's going to do it for FFT and 5. We'll see you tomorrow.